Let's start here. Mesha Mainor, thank you for joining us on the Georgia Vote.
Thank you for having me, Zach.
You made some big news recently. You are running for state school superintendent.
I am.
What made you decide you want to run?
Well, our current incumbent has been in office for almost 12 years now. By the time it'll be the end of his term. And under his term, 8th grade math scores have gone down 10 points. 8th grade reading scores have gone down 5 points. A lot of people know me as the person that really helped push the Georgia Promise Scholarship along. Although that is true, I think the main thing of why we need a new person in this role, because it's not a term-limited role, is that the state of Georgia's Department of Education is not fulfilling the needs of parents, the students, the staff, or the community at whole. Taxpayers are funding this position, and there should be accountability and a return on investment.
Now, you're running in this race as a Republican.
Yes, proudly.
Not too many years ago, you were a state legislator with the Democratic Party.
I was.
What made you switch parties?
I switched for lots of things. You know, a lot of people think it was because of educational freedom or school vouchers or parent choice. It was for all of those reasons, but in addition to that, as a Democrat, I voted not to defund the police. As a Democrat, I voted on government accountability. There's a big bill out that I passed, HB 1149. If you are aware, right now, the current Cobb clerk is under indictment because of using discretionary funds inappropriately, allegedly. And so my bill basically said any discretionary funds, the public must be aware of what those funds are being used for, because people can use those funds for their personal salary. The Democratic Party was completely against that bill. If you go back and look at the tapes, it was really horrendous, the things that they were saying on why someone like this clerk should be able to use taxpayer money any way that she wanted to. So my values really align more with the Republican Party, and I think that the Democrat Party has been changing progressively over the years. And it's not that I left the party, it's more so the party left me and all the other former Democrats.
Just to be very clear, because they're not here to speak for themselves, that situation in Cobb County, there have been no convictions at this point, so we want to be clear. You know, they would, I'm sure, push back on that, and everyone is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. When you say that you feel like the Democratic Party left you, you're now a Republican. The Republican Party of 2025 has many different ideological factions within it. There, in some ways, if you look at Georgia politics, some people would argue there are two wings of the Republican Party in Georgia. There's the Governor Brian Kemp wing and the President Donald Trump wing. Where do you think you fit in most in that alignment?
Well, socially, I would say I have friends in all of the different factions. As a new Republican, I am not shying away from anyone, because at the end of the day, I believe that people have the right to feel the way that they want to feel. And so I do not discourage either faction. Everybody has the right to be how they want to be. For me, I am more about accountability. I'm more about what are the factors that are really affecting everyday taxpayers. You know, people want safe communities. People want schools where they can educate their children. People want to feel like they can pay for their bills, their utilities. People want a prosperous life. People want to live healthy and long. Who makes the best policies for that based on data and research and not passion are the Republicans. And I support making decisions based on data versus passion.
I want to shift gears and talk about some specifics of the education space, because obviously that's front of mind as we're talking about a run for superintendent. But before we get there, you alluded to this earlier, but I think it's worth spending a moment on this. You are running against an incumbent of your own party.
Yes.
What made you want to do that?
So for me, I feel like what I am noticing is a difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party is if you are running against someone that's a Democrat, that's an incumbent, it really isn't that big of a deal, right? But it does seem like on the Republican side, people are taking a little bit more note to that. And
you feel like you've been getting some pushback?
I would not say pushback, but people have asked me that question, right? No one ever asked me that question as a Democrat. And my response is, at the end of the day, he got into office in 2014. It's 2025. His term ends in 2026. You can look at the data. The nation's report card just came out. The points in the school system for the Department of Education of Georgia have constantly gone down. Do we continue to support incapability? No, that is not the Republican way. The Republican way is capability. The Republican way is making sure tax dollars are spent appropriately. And so no one wants in my opinion, no one should really want an incumbent that's in office that is not really capable of doing the job that parents want him to be doing.
You have concerns about the performance of Georgia's schools. If you win this race, what would you do differently to fix it?
I am going to bring something called a pass system. What I feel like, if students must pass their grade every year, then the Georgia Department of Education must pass as well. So right now, parents, community members, no one really knows who the state school superintendent is. No one knows what that role is. And so one, we need to make sure that people are aware of the office so their needs can be met. Two, the P stands for parental rights or advocacy. So one, just making sure parents have a voice. I plan on adding a parent advisory council to different regions of the area so I can really hear from the parents and understand what their needs and concerns are. A is for accountability. That is the return on investment that I was talking about earlier. There are no metrics right now to say, hey, we're spending this much money per pupil on funding, but how does that correlate to the nation's report card, if you will, right? The second thing is student success. So right now we are not performing the way we should. Literacy rates are low, simple math. It's hard for a lot of children. There are some schools in the state where it's 0% reading proficiency. A lot of those districts or schools were in the district that I just recently represented. And the S is just exceptional customer service. But that ties in the P, A, and S. So making sure parents are heard, making sure we're accountable, and making sure students are succeeding, all while we're giving exceptional customer service. Because at the end of the day, the culture of the Department of Education under my leadership will be really customer focused centered, putting the teachers first, the staff first, the families first, the students first, and just community members, because it's really important for people to understand that the Department of Education's budget is over half of the Georgia budget, right? This is billions of dollars that are going into education, and people must feel like they have a say-so in how it's being funded because the taxpayer is funding it.
I want to ask you one or two last questions here. We've covered a lot of ground. School curriculums and school library books have become a real centerpiece of conversation in not just Georgia, but in the United States over the last few years. There have been calls by some to remove what they describe as controversial or divisive topics from public school classrooms. Other people have argued that those topics are educational, things like critical race theory, things like when and how you teach gender identity, or if you teach gender identity. Where do you stand on those issues?
Well, I have a record on where I stand with that issue. So while I was a Democrat in office, I actually voted with the Republicans on, I like to call it a roadmap bill, because the bill in the press was put as the book ban bill, right? There were students, I was on the education committee, there were parents that came down to the Capitol, which is or an ordeal, right? People have things to do. So whenever parents would come to the Capitol, it was very important to me that we were listening to what they were saying. At the end of the day, parents felt like they did not have a voice if they had a concern at the school. So the proper chain of command, you may start with the teacher, then the assistant principal, then the principal, to the local school board. So the bill that we passed, that was quote unquote the book ban bill, simply put measures in place only for parents that are in that school, not for anyone else. You had to have a child enrolled in that school. So if a parent had a problem with a book, it wasn't the administration, it wasn't an elected leader, it had to be a parent saying, hey, I have a problem with this book. The bill says you will go through several channels, and then after you go through all those channels, people from the local level, the state level, and at the school will all decide collectively, hey, is this a book that shouldn't be here? And I think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be just based on what I believe in. It should be a collective effort of everyone.
Let's end here. For somebody who maybe is not familiar with you, for somebody who is maybe not familiar with your campaign, your elevator pitch to them would be what?
If you feel like your taxpayer dollars are important and you feel like Georgia should be the #1 state to educate, go to MeshaMainor.com, find more about my campaign, donate, volunteer, and I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail because I plan on hitting every part of Georgia.
Mesha Mainor, thank you very much.
Thank you.